Let us pray. Most kind of loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the blessings of life. We thank you for the opportunity to come together and visit some people in the city of Lexington. Father, I pray that you bless our board, grant them wisdom, bring with us tonight during this time. Be the less fortunate in our community. Watch over us, guide us, direct us, forgive us before we fail. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Please, to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brett Ellis. Here. Roger Lofton. Here. Tim Rose. Here. Jimmy White. Here. Gordon Eldridge. Here. Gabe Williams. Sandra Wood. Here.
Gabe is in Harvard, his daughter on a high school team, and they're in the state tournament. Gabe is not with us tonight, and only he will be. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I want to thank TBA. In a minute, I'm going to go around the room and just let everybody, we'll do introductions to each other. I do want to thank TBA for being here tonight and having this discussion with our board. I am a big fan of TBA. Our community would not be what it is without TBA. Our water service, our power, TBA has done a lot for us, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate your agency, work forward, and what y'all do for us. And at this time, let's just start, and we'll go. Jimmy, just start when you introduce yourself. We'll go around the room. Yes, sir. Just there you go.
Oh, I thought we just answered. I'm Jimmy White. I'm the Veteran Service Officer in Houston County, and I'm also Alderman here in the city.
Roger Lofton, my first year serving as Alderman here in the city.
Mallory McCall. Mallory, do public awareness for the city of Lexington, and I'm the secretary for the meetings.
Jeff Griggs, City Mayor.
Sandra Wood, Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Division of Forestry, and also Alderman.
Tim Rose, retired, Alderman 7 years. Fred Ellis, Alderman 2.5 years.
Gordon Wilders, on the Wilders Machine Shop here in town. I've been on the board. I think it's my third term.
Jason Sparkman, I'm a regulatory analyst in West Tennessee. And Howard Wilson, manager of regulatory assurance and compliance at West
Brian Smith, I'm the Director of Customer Relations, TDA for West Tennessee. I was somewhat of a local boy. I grew up in Tennessee, but my mom was a maintenance from here. So, but she's been gone for 40, 50 years now. So.
I'm Giovanna Wilson, regulatory analyst for the West Tennessee area out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Also, I've got Matt Wood with ATA. He does auditing for the Lexington Electric System. I've got Ken Walker's our city attorney that's sitting back here. And there's other folks in the room, but I will just leave it with those introductions. Do y'all have something that y'all want to show before we go into the questions on this PowerPoint, or is there anything that y'all wanted to open up with, or you just want to let my side open up the questions?
I'll be happy to do it however y'all really plan on, to be honest with you, Mayor Griggs. We do have some slides to go through that might answer some of the questions on the front end, but we decided I want this to be informal. If it's real formal, I'll get nervous, so y'all please interrupt and ask questions. So it's okay, y'all. I'm just going to do it right here. I think we got it right.
We are. Let me go ahead and tell you this. There's nobody going to kill an nobody in here.
Oh, so,
and we got Rick Whitehead with MTAS just walked in. As well. All right, trying to be.
Thank y'all for allowing us to reschedule this. I know last time we had weather, it wasn't being too terribly bad in this area. Other parts of the valley were not so fortunate. Today wasn't the greatest either, but I think I rode the back of that wave coming across over here, and just thank y'all for allowing us the ability to do that and to come before y'all today.
We've learned how to get rain in the storm, just 20-something TBA.
Either that or wash your car, that's right.
Well, y'all stole my opening joke about bringing storms for this, so I guess I'll have that anymore. I do want to take a moment. I didn't tell Brian this ahead of time because he had told me not to do it, but I do want to recognize that Brian, y'all's customer relations manager, has just recently been promoted to director of regional relations at TBA. So congratulations.
I appreciate that.
We wanted to do that. Now I wanted me to tell y'all. That's why I'm telling him I was going to say that. So yeah, this is going to be informal. We did get the questions, Mayor and Board, and we'll be happy to go through whatever variations of those y'all would like to. But just kind of wanted to run through a high-level presentation of what our role is with regulatory. So again, at any point, if I say something you don't understand, you have questions, just throw something and yell at me. So our mission is pretty straightforward. It's pretty the same as yours. Across the valley, just the southern people of the valley and make life better. So we serve over 10 million customers and over 80,000 square miles across 7 states, of course, Tennessee. A lot of people don't realize that you actually touches a piece of North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia, as well as, of course, Tennessee. I do have some notes here. I'm trying to refer to them as little as possible, but just to keep myself organized here. So that's the mission, and then here's really where we come in, all of us here together with the public power and the local control. So public power just really means that we're not obliged to investors. We don't have stockholders. We're not trying to make a profit. Our focus is on low cost and reliable electricity for all the ratepayers across the valley. TBA was established in 1933 by an act of Congress, and we work closely with LPCs. We love an acronym, and I will use that. So we'll go ahead and say local power companies, LPCs, such as Lexington Electric here, is one of our 153 that we work closely with to make life better. We have a regulatory oversight role that we exercise. There's several ways that we do that. Overseeing an LPC's financial health, their policies, and then, of course, each LPC served by TBA is responsible for managing its own electric system operation. We refer to that as local control, as you'll see in that fourth bullet there. So that's really, this is my opinion, but I'd say the cornerstone of why this works is the local control. Each system is unique in its own way. As I'll cover here in a slide or two, Lexington electric system itself is uniquely unique in its footprint. And so that local control is extremely important. Just a quick overview. So the next slide, actually. As you see here, of course, this was as of annual report of 2023, but it'll all be still pretty close. But 23,000 customers, but what's unique about that was that the electric is only roughly 5,000 within the city limits of Lexington. So while it's a municipal electric system, it really functions more as a core, serving multiple communities. Of course, you all here provide that oversight and the local control, and then it's managed by the general manager, Brad, the day-to-day operations. And pretty rural system, less than 12 customers per mile, and then there's just some great information for you all. All right. This will be the most technical slide that we have, I promise. So this is the authority. So this is how we regulate, why we regulate. It comes, of course, through the Constitution and the TBA Act. So the Constitution gave TVA per kilowatt hour is the same thing that all 153 local power companies pay TVA for that. And then the retail rates are determined based on, again, local control, local decision, and a variety of other factors. We recognize that Lexington is going to be different than a Macon, Mississippi, or a Memphis like gas and water. That they're two separate things, and so the rates are determined at the local level through a variety of factors. But the key with the rates, of course, is to make sure that the electric system is self-supporting and financially sound. And second, non-discrimination. I always just try to explain this by saying, if me and Jason live beside one another, then we should be treated the exact same way. If we call the power company with a complaint or an issue, we should get the same service, same rate, and all that. User revenue, which I know that's one of the things we wanted to hit on and talk about tonight, of course, is OPCs are required to use electric system revenues for electric system purposes. And within the power contract, there's a priority, and I've got a detailed slide on that we can run through that kind of lays that out. But the gist of it is that electric system revenue has to be used for electric purposes. And financial and accounting, so we monitor financial health and ensure that professional accounting standards are followed. Giovanna and Jason here, they wear a lot of hats, but one of the primary ones is ensuring that Lexington Electric and other local power companies follow those accounting standards and are financially healthy. And then joint use, so any assets that are jointly used between electric and non-electric, so typically what we'd be referring to here would be like water, sewer, sanitation, and now in y'all's case broadband, that the electric is paying its fair share, but also not subsidizing any other department there, so that joint use is properly accounted for. And then finally, rules and regulations. All right. I will not go through all these. There's just a couple areas I wanted to hit on. These are all of our different oversight activities. But one of the areas I wanted to hit on is very quickly right up here. You can see the mouse in section 5, the rate and credit check. So this is a function that our group performs on a periodic basis where we come in and check all rate classes. So any rate class that Lexington Electric has, we would come in and check to ensure those rates are being properly and consistently applied, and then any credits that are being offered, we check those as well to make sure that they're going where they're supposed to be going. And then over here to the far right, under the schedule of terms and conditions, last 3 of 4 bullet points there, the monthly reporting, annual report, and external audit report. So this is how we ensure on a monthly, annual, and annual basis. We've got Matt from ATA here who helps with y'all's external audit. They do a great job. So monthly, of course, TVA, and a lot of other departments within TVA use this information as well. They're evaluating the monthly financials, and then we do a deep dive with the annual report and the external audit.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In section 6 up there, you've got this added broadband package review.
In the last 4 or 5 years, yes, sir, we have.
So that is something that's coming more and more that gets in line with the electric system.
That's correct. Yes, sir. When the state legislature passed that, munis have been able to do it for a while, but co-ops are able to do it here in the last 4 or 5 years. That's where it started getting a little more interesting when you're talking about city government versus private entity like co-op. It added a little bit of wrinkle to it, but I would say we've done broadband package reviews, especially in the instances where electric system funds are being used to either fund or propagate broadband provision or broadband do that out.
I have a question, but we'll wait for the end.
Yeah, just whenever you're gonna ask it, but yeah, so what's unique, especially with a cooperative system in general, is there's really no other revenue stream to start a broadband division other than electric system revenue, right? And so we developed a process, whereas an LPC can come through that process, get approval to loan that money, and there's some steps to go through that. And Lexington has been through that process, and that's very good. But yeah, that is relatively new, just the push throughout the valley for rural broadband. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
I wouldn't say it functions as a cooperative, just looking at it from the outside, looking in, it looks more like a co-op due to density of customers per mile and just how much rural area you serve. Whereas, you know, Jackson Energy Authority seems to be associated, just the city limits of Jackson is basically all they serve. Whereas Lexington serves the city of Lexington and also a big chunk of Henderson County, Decatur County, and parts of a few other counties. So it's a little different. Like Paris is similar. Paris is owned by the city of Paris, but they serve all of Henry County. What's the county serves outside their footprint too, but that's a county, maybe it's a little different. But that's what I think that's what he's trying to say. It looks more like a co-op based on the density of customers per mile you serve.
And the fact that it serves outside of the city.
So basically, that's what a co-op is a utility that serves people outside of its county or city.
Well, the co-op is a little bit different in that the cooperative is owned by its members, its customers, or they call it their members, and so they all own the cooperative jointly, and so they serve whatever service territory they have. So I know close to y'all is Southwest, bus up to you guys in southwestern corner, probably for the most part, the southern side of Lexington system. But you know, Southwest serves a huge territory, mostly rural areas, coming from the Mississippi River almost to the Tennessee River, and so they serve almost all the way around Jackson and a few other areas in Henderson County, and they go all the way over and serve north of MIGW and Bolivar and a few other places around there. So it's just munis and co-ops are just a little different. Where munis is owned by municipalities, the co-ops are owned by their members who receive service.
How are boards formed for governing boards in a co-op?
They're unique, or some of them are unique, some of them are voted on across the whole, and some of them have districts where they have board members assigned that way, but they're voted on by their membership. Somewhat similar, I guess. Some of y'all get voted on to be Alderman, but I'm not sure how all that works. It's similar.
Y'all use the word unique for LES. Our city is unique. I mean, in the fact that we own all our utilities, our water and gas, we go outside the county too, just like LES does. Our broadband will. On a given day, we have 39,000 people that come to our daytime population here. It's unusual. We own our own school system. I mean, Lexington is a very unique town. Not only LES, but all the town.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Yeah, that's really just what I meant, is the footprint of Lexington is a little unique. Okay, and then just the last thing I wanted to hit on is the complaint resolution program right here. So this was created by TBA and Regulatory Assurance in 2016-17. I don't actually have that number, that date in front of me, but in roughly that time frame. And what's unique about that is we wanted to offer an opportunity for the end-of-the-line ratepayer customer to have an opportunity, if they have an issue that can't be resolved at the local level with the power company, to be heard. And so Amanda West runs that program for us. She's not with us tonight, but she does a great job. But the reason I'm highlighting that is to say that it is very uncommon that we get a call to that through Lexington Electric. And I say that for a reason, because that means that the staff here at Lexington Electric is doing a very good job of handling that at the local level. We're not getting complaints coming through to that on any consistent basis. So just wanted to highlight that.
I get copies of most of those. I think the last time we've had multiple complaints in a short period of time was when the tornadoes came through and took out our towers over there on the other side of the substation. And it took us a while to get that built back up, obviously, and it was a tough situation. But hopefully when we get the Jackson Creek to West Lexington line built, it'll give y'all another tap into here and provide some redundancy for the city of Lexington to be dual fed instead of being regular.
I know the former manager Graves fought for that for years.
He did.
And that's, you know, we appreciate that. We need it. It's something that he always says we needed. And we thank you for TVA for making that happen.
I agree 100%. It's going to allow a lot of redundancy and resiliency for the city of Lexington to have that in place.
So here's our service practice policies framework. And so back several years ago, we developed this service practice policy framework. And the way I always try to describe it, just kind of put it simply, is we developed like a left hey, anything within this, is fair game, and it's, local control, as long as your policies fall within these boundaries, develop them as best fits for your system. There's 4 key areas there. So deposits, to make sure that they're being applied consistently and fairly. Termination of service, which would be your disconnects for non-payment. Billing, everybody's being billed, they're getting the same billing time, the same billing rules, standards, etc. And then information to customers, so to make sure that there's consistent, equitable communication to all ratepayers across that. And so in 2015, Lexington submitted, LES submitted their SBPA and were approved, and those are still in place and on file with us. So any material change that we make to those for some reason, I know that would likely come before you all and the board, we would just ask if we could be copied on those so we can keep all of our records up to date. So here's the use of revenue section. So it's within our wholesale power contract, and this is what I hit on earlier, much priority of revenues and how they can be used. And so within the power contract, the municipality agrees that they'll use revenues from electric operations for the following purposes. The first is operating expenses. That, of course, includes the power bill, the PBA, which typically makes up anywhere from 65 to 75% of all revenues for any local power company. The second area would be payments on system indebtedness. Third would be the establishment of reasonable reserves, and that's, of course, just to make sure that the system is sustainable not just today, but tomorrow as well. And then finally, tax equivalent payments, or they're often referred to as pilots. So tax equivalent, in lieu pilot, all the same thing. Some people call them different monikers. So that's those orders. So then anything beyond that would be considered surplus revenue. And the power contract specifies that that can be used for new electric system construction, early retirement for system indebtedness, or in some cases even the reduction of electric rates. Again, rates as low as feasible, so if there's surplus beyond that, then at that point there'd be an evaluation of potentially lowering. And then here's the guidelines themselves. So this, the PBA board approved these in 2013. And so here, this really one kind of specifies what these additional uses of revenues can be used for. And so again, it says in making these expenditures, LPCs are expected to develop and consistently apply a fair process to ensure that a reasonable and commensurate benefit is present. So this is really referring to any type of surplus revenue. And so these expenses would include, but of course not limited to, charitable contributions and sponsorships, memberships of trade organizations, Kiwanis, Rotaries, what have you, advertising. Of course, that needs to be specific to electric. Maybe a safety message or energy efficiency, that type of advertising. And then finally, economic development. And then in 2019, to your question earlier, Mr. Wood, in 2019, we added the broadband authorization, which said that if an LPC comes through our process, that they can use surplus revenue to establish or loan startup money to create a broadband entity. Economic development. I know we have a couple questions around this, so I wanted to make sure we put these bullets in this slide in here. So an LPC may use a justified, reasonable amount of electric system revenues for economic development. They should develop a policy with that, based on some quantifiable criteria, such as jobs, capital investment, growth in some way, and then that policy would have to be applied in a consistent, non-discriminatory manner. Of course, that's a common thing. Our policy for economic development projects is to determine whether or not the use of those economic development funds, whether or not the funds should be used for each individual project or purpose. And then under the use of revenue guidelines, LPC must ensure that those investments benefit to all electric system payers. And then, of course, there's the bottom of the box. That's really the key takeaway of all the above. Our recommendation for any type of economic development expenditure or investment would be that the policy that's established and incorporates all of the above, that those funds are allocated, and a key here would be that they're evaluated on an annual basis, and not, hey, we've built a policy that makes sense today, might not make sense 2 years from now for whatever reason, and so that it's evaluated on an annual basis to make sure that the electric system operates on a self-supporting financial basis. And then this is some information that me and my team put together, so I hope it's not confusing. Please let me know if you have any questions. But what we really just wanted to show here is what this would look like. So, actually, I'm going to back up. So one thing you will notice here we did not put on this slide is I did not put any that number percentage threshold. That was intentional. And the reason is because, kind of back to the example earlier, about getting water or making, if you try to put a specific parameter, I mean, what's good for one might not make sense for others. So, with that being said, what we did here is we just took a, kind of a loose rule of thumb of 2% of total electric system revenue, and just looked at how that might impact the financial of Lexington if that was just blindly used and not evaluated. So we just started with a round number of 2020. So of course you can see here we've got net income ratio and cash ratio. So in the actual category, this is of course actually what the financials show. So in 2020, as you see, the net income ratio was negative. It's not uncommon. We're trying to keep rates as low as feasible. Sometimes that's just inevitable. So in that scenario, had didn't take 2% of the negative, but at 2% of the total gross revenue, it would just further decrease the net income. And so when we see in 21, net ratio was 2%, it would have made it break even and so forth. But really the compounding effect here is what we wanted to show. So if you look over here on the right-hand side with the cash ratio for Lexington has been very, it's healthy, but certainly not excessive over the last 5 years. And so if you look at just that 2% of gross revenues, just across really just 4.5 years, as of today, at this point, that cash ratio would be down to 7.8%, which we would actually consider as a below healthy threshold, and it would cause red flags and concerns on the short-term viability if a storm were to happen or something. And you can see on here at the bottom our target ratio with that. So I know that's still a lot of percentages and numbers out. Does that make sense? What we're trying to show here? Okay. All right, and then finally, this is my last slide. This broadband. In 2021, Lexington began securing grants to get into the broadband business, and I just wanted to say I live in Boonville, Mississippi, Prentice County, northeast corner of Mississippi. I have firsthand seen what rural broadband does for a community. So I really, I know it's a huge undertaking to do that. I've seen that both through my job and as just a ratepayer and citizen of a rural community. But it's been a godsend there. So I commend y'all for taking that on. But, in February 2022, Lexington was authorized to loan $2.6 million for electric system revenue through our broadband review process. And then here in about 3 months, in September 2024, LexNet, of course the broadband division, will begin repaying that loan at an interest rate of 3% for a term of 9 years. And then Jason and Giovanna and my team will be working along with Brad and his team to complete a cost study that will allocate any shared employees, resources, assets between the electric and broadband subsidiary. And saying that made me think too, I meant to say this on a previous slide, Leanne, the accounting girl, she does a really, really good job. I know she's going to be very involved with the cost study. When we talked about the monthly and annual reporting, that is always consistently on time, very accurate. We appreciate that. That kind of goes unnoticed and unsaid sometimes because somebody does a really good job, and it just kind of becomes expected they do a good job. But I do want to highlight that. So. saying is if just we blindly took 2% each year for economic development purposes, that's where it would be.
So it goes back to the question is, does the local authority have the ability to adjust the rates to keep that, negative column?
Yes, they would, yes, sir. Again, there would need to be a policy that shows some type of consistent and commensurate benefit to the electorate. But yes, assuming that policy was in place, and you could point to, hey, here's why and here's how we're investing that money, then yes, y'all would have the ability to come in and try to take a rate action to do that. Yes, sir.
The guidelines that you can go back to do that, would y'all work with us to figure out what you could and couldn't do, make sure those guidelines are help and build between the boundaries?
Yes, absolutely. We would like to do that, sir. It's up to you, the local level, to determine what that looks like, but we would certainly be willing to evaluate that and provide our opinion and feedback on it, absolutely. What we could also probably do is connect you with others who have developed policies similar to that and allow y'all to review those and see what might or might not make sense.
Tennessee has got a municipality code, and it's 752-303. Y'all familiar with that?
I mean, I'm not familiar with that number.
The reason I'm saying that is it governs on this where you can legally take or use of this to be distributed. And according to what they project in here, it's 22.5%. Does that sound something that's right or wrong? Like the county rate? Well, what happens is you get 22.5% for the counties. Harrison County gets so much, Decatur County gets so much, Hardin County gets so much, Carroll County does. And then you go to the cities. Okay, the cities get more, or because we are the bigger hub, we get use more like that. But my question in this whole scheme of what they wrote out, I read this thing and where it works out is, that's basically what they've done, says you can do that. But in having a governing board, which we are, there seems to be no thing other than the fact that the electric system is actually the governing board and not us. So they then decide how much money that is, and they distribute it out. I mean, it's kind of the way I read it, okay? I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. But now, if we're the governing board, just like every governing board has the ability to augment a salary or something out of that for being the governing board. Is that a fair question, man?
I understand your question, Craig. I believe what you're referring to is pilot. That the statute is that the in lieu payment that they make, the percentage breakdown.
But that goes everybody the same.
That's correct. Yes,
Everybody.
that's correct. Yes, sir.
Everybody different. So even though Harrison County's not the governing board,
That's right.
and we are the governing board. So is it prudent for us to have a little more or less because we're the governing board, or is it equal no matter what?
Well, that's a state statute issue there, and I'm not an attorney, so
Well, the reason I'm asking is because
Sure.
the heart of the matter is whatever we try to do, if you have a state statute, it states it. That's what it does. Now look up this code, and the municipalities have one code, and JPA has a different code. Everybody has a different code, and that was then established at the state legislature level. So again, knowing that is, if you want something done, you actually have to go to the state legislature to change this code to be able to do something like that. I'm just asking, I'm reading and trying to understand what I'm reading here, but knowing what the board would like to do, and then able to have a little money, and that's really what this meeting is about. Is if we can generate a little money, we can use for economic development. That's what we're after. We can grow our industrial park, we can grow the employment base, which we'd like to do. But is this going to limit us in what we can do?
if I'm understanding it right, then I'll be happy to look at it, but if I think I'm understanding what you're asking, then no, sir, I don't think that would limit it. I think it's two separate things. I believe.
Okay.
And so the economic development would be a separate conversation. Now that will, the limitations around the pilot payment, in lieu, tax equivalent, whatever you want to call it, that is a state statute. And it's also within the power contract.
I'm just trying to understand it, sorry, if I can read and read the figures.
I hope this doesn't make it more complicated. The only way they would actually come in is if the economic development did provide, growth, as everybody would hope it would. That would then grow the assets of the electric system, which would then increase the amount. But that's what the tax payments are based off of, the net assets, times the millage rate, and a bunch of other things. But that's the two main things, is assets and millage rate. So if the electric department grows, tax bill payments would grow.
I guess another question, when you're talking about assets. Okay, the assets that LES has, all right, I'm sure it's on the book, it's reported what it is. I know in doing bond buying, they look at the debt that the whole city incurs, and they basically say your bond rating won't be good because of the debt that you incur. But in actuality, what the stream of revenue that system can generate does not put it in the category that it's that you lose money on. Any utility has the ability to adjust rate because you're not supposed to lose money anyway. You're supposed to adjust and keep your cash above what you paid out. So if you don't, it's your own fault you done that, but it don't make you a bad risk to do a bond, the way I see it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it.
That's a good question. So, these are slides. We appreciate that time. I hope it's kind of a high, overview there might help with some of it. But then this is just the broad umbrella of what regulatory assurance does. Again, me, Jason, and Yvonne fall under that dark blue category there of assurance and compliance. Put that there just for illustrative purposes. And I'm done with my spiel, so I'll open it up to any questions.
What I thought I'd do on our side, I know I reached out to the board and I'd asked them for questions and to send to y'all, so that way you kind of have an understanding. So what I'm fixing to do right now is go to the board. I've kind of tried to write down what all y'all asked, but I'm gonna let y'all individually ask the questions you have. Once I see it, I'll check it off my list. I know Alderman Williams is at the state tournament. He had a few questions. If y'all don't ask those same questions, I'll ask his for him in his absence. So, I'm gonna go with y'all, whoever wants to start. Roger, don't be bashful, just start. All right, no questions on the board?
Can you not go over the ones that we should do?
We can. I'll just start with Gabe's questions. His first question was, once the loan from LES to Lexington for broadband is paid off, what limitations and restrictions on future revenue pricing for TVA enforce? What will TVA's involvement legal requirements be after the loan is paid off? Lexington will be owned by the city of Lexington, not TVA. Can the city of Lexington benefit from the revenues of Lexington if not? And TVA has say so on this. Help us understand why and what the boundaries are. One thing I will say before y'all dive into that, and I've explained to our board, they had a choice when broadband came. The city could have done the project, or LES could have done the project. Well, we chose for LES to do the project. And so it falls under the umbrella of LES and not the city. So I think the board's wondering about the revenue. Of course, we all know the grant's 27.4 million. We did a bond for 22. So it's going to be a while before you start seeing profit come in. So, but once that comes in, I think the board wants to know who gets that profit. Does it in turn go back into the system to keep rates low for broadband? Or what's y'all's TVA's opinion on that?
Sure. So in true regulator fashion, I'll say we do not have control over it. But I'm joking. So the simple truth is no, we do not have purview over the assuming, of course, that electric is repaid as agreed upon. We talked about 3% over 19 years or sooner. And as long as whatever revenue stream, funds, however you want to call it, is used in broadband, does not jeopardize broadband to where they cannot fairly repay their joint cost with the electric. As long as those two things are satisfied, we have zero authority over any non-electric fund, be it broadband or just like any other department. But again, in this case, to your point, electric does have some proverbial skin in the game. And so as long as that is satisfied, then we have no such thing.
Basically, as long as the loan gets paid back, and as long as they're paying the electric system for whatever electric